Let's see. Take a minute, waiting for. Come on. Oh, there.
The little red thing disappeared though, the live thing on the bottom. You know where you always hit it?
Yeah.
Oh, there it's back. Whoop. It comes and goes. Why?
I wonder if the, oh, there must be something wrong with the sound. Or not the sound. Okay. We're good.
We're good.
We're good to go.
All righty. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to, I think, the 95th episode of our Green Room. So today, Dr. Barry's off in the Amazon chasing piranha and whatever else lives there, and he'll be back in a couple of weeks. So today, we actually have a really great guest. It's Don McCauley. He's actually a producer, and he actually is coming on our side today to talk about bipolar disorder and cannabis, but we're going to get rolling a little bit with, we always start, Barry and I always start with what's going on in the news. And I think unless you live in a cave, you've seen the news, another tragedy, another useless assault on children, where 19 children died unnecessarily due to gun violence. And I don't know what it's going to take to make this stop. Something's got to give. And I just, you can only say you're going to pray so much, and like, oh, my thoughts and prayers are with these families. Well, you know what? That does jack shit to the family that just lost their little child, and they'll never have that ever again.
Exactly.
I don't think there's any words that he can even express. Like, I mean, okay, you can say you're praying your thoughts, but really, how do you can't even give condolences. I mean, this is like, it's obscene, you know?
No, you can't.
You can't.
It's and I used to be a former teacher.
Yeah, that's right.
As a former teacher, I can say this: students have enough on their plate.
Mm-hmm.
Teachers have enough on their plate, and administration has enough on their plate. That was probably one of the scariest jobs that I had as a teacher, but it was also one of the most rewarding. I got to see some kids I taught from 3 years old all the way up through adults. And I can say that every single kid just wants to be the best that they can be for every parent that that's all they want. They want to please their parents. And when they have,
But how do you combat, like, okay, so yesterday, I don't know on your Facebook feed, but on mine, I have a lot of mixed people on, so I have different political views. How do you combat the argument that there was several women who posted, God is no longer in the household, and the parents need to step up and teach their children not to do violence, and they need God back. How do you, like, this is my thing, like, how do you know what that household, first of all, has in their homes? How do you know they're not religious? First of all, I thought that was kind of a general blanket statement from these women saying, well, these families all need, like, meaning the families of these kids who end up killing somebody, that their families may not be religious, or they may not have good upbringings. How do you know that, first of all? So who are you to judge that? And then secondly, seriously, you might have one son who's a priest and one that's a mass murderer. And you have Hitler, who was a devout Catholic. You have Putin, who's a devout Orthodox, and they're slaughtering and butchering people. So I think that argument is kind of a mute one.
It's very much mute.
There's a lot of talk, and we had Dr. Charles Felix on last week about, what about video games? Do you think they don't? Because obviously I know you're in graphic design and things, but you don't think that plays some role, that it desensitizes these children into, like, opening fire on someone?
I don't think so. I think it's multiple things. It's environment, it's upbringing, there's several things. Like with teaching, if you're a student and you don't have your basic needs met, you're not going to come into the classroom ready to learn. If you don't know where your next meal is going to come from, if you don't know where your parents are, if you don't know where you're going to sleep. There's
so many children that live in their cars nowadays. It's crazy.
Yeah, I was a teacher as in a District 1 or Title I school, and every child received free or reduced lunch, and we had, I would say, probably 8 to 10% of the population that was homeless.
Oh, God.
So, those kids just didn't come in ready to learn because they didn't know where their parents were. They didn't know that they were going to have dinner that night. So it was like, how can I teach you to the best of my ability if you can't learn to the best of your ability because your home environment is just not set up right?
So awful. And this is the thing, like, okay, like one of my, like, and we talk about this offline a lot,
Mhm.
the United States does a great job at their PR on themselves as being one of the best countries in the world. They really are not. I'm sorry, it's not. When you go to other European countries or anywhere, Australia, go to New Zealand, one, there's not a massive fear of mass shootings because there's gun controls.
Mhm.
Their children they don't have high security in their schools. They still go to school like a school child. And then they actually make sure that their families have housing. So if they can't afford it, the state provides housing. So no one is homeless in those countries. And it also provides meals to those families. And here people are like, this is my craziness that I've had over the last couple weeks, especially in lieu of Roe versus Wade. You have these people who are pro-life, yet if we want to give social benefits to women and children, to give them a stable home environment, to feed their children, they're like, oh, why is the government doing that? You're giving handouts. Are you what do you define as pro-life then?
Really? It's not what it is.
What is it?
It's accountability, really. And that's what it is accountability. If you have parents that are accountable for their children, then those parents are held to a certain standard. If you have a country that's held accountable for their people, then it's held to a certain standard.
Agreed.
But until then, there is no accountability and no rules. So the rules are off. So anything goes. So at that point, you can't tell. It's just chaos.
It is. And then like you look at like one of the things that's interesting, somebody actually posted this yesterday also, and I thought it was kind of a poignant point. How many women or girls open fire on anyone in all these shootings? That would be a 0.
Yep.
So why is it that women, for some reason, are able to manage gun control on their own and not have to fire away at people? And mental illness is the same in women and as men. Mm-hmm. The social upbringing, the statuses are all there. Why is it in our society that women are okay with managing weaponry being open, and yet the men are the ones who open fire and take out lives? And I don't even know how to answer that, but it's a really interesting statistic. And it is, it's like, just like even if you look at how many serial killers are women versus men, I mean, it's bizarre, but it's like 99% white men. Like, so it's just an odd thing. And so I don't know what we have to look at as a culture. And somebody else, and I actually addressed that person this morning, posted also, instead of giving Ukraine 40 million, why don't we invest $40 million of security in our school systems? That to me, and I wrote back to her and I said, you know what, that is one of the saddest statements of our country I think you could ever make, that we need to invest $40 million in security into our schools just to protect our children from ourselves. What's the root problem again? Maybe it's the guns. Maybe like that Second Amendment right of carrying isn't such a great one. I mean, we have to look at something here. What gives?
Think about it in terms of an environment. You're given a person and you can put them into an environment where they're nurtured and cared for, or you can put them into an environment where they're basically thrown to the wolves.
Yes.
And say, deal with it yourself. So that's what we're doing with our people.
Yeah, we are.
As Americans, I feel that we are.
Whether it's seniors, whether it's children, it's everybody. I mean, it's whether you're Black, whether you're brown, what your religion is, socioeconomic. We put so many pressures, I think, on our society and individuals that really, I think they do crack. And again, I think it's still a phenomenon about the sex, why men seem to crack more than the women do.
Maybe lesser sex. And I'll say it there, right there.
Oh, that's funny. But no, it's like, it's a crazy thing. So, I mean, I don't know what to say. I don't want to say that, our thoughts and prayers are with those families. I know they are, but But honestly,
Has to
there's
go
no,
beyond
it
that.
has to go beyond, it has to go to policy change. It has to be due to defunding that stupid freaking NRA that is such a huge lobbyist power. And I'm sorry, both sides of the aisles pockets are filled with that NRA
Yep.
money.
Yep.
And until that lobbying in this NRA backed politicians start making policy change to affect, something's got to give. And you know, somebody else wrote, a school teacher actually wrote, she goes, what if we all as school teachers and educators all decided until there's gun control law, let's walk out and no children get educated. Maybe it would take that amount of force of all teachers just saying, you know what, we surrender, our hands up. You don't want to deal with it, well, neither will we. And we don't want our students being killed. We don't want to be killed as teachers with the kid coming into open fire on us. I think it's going to take something that dramatic to make a change.
It's going to take a type of revolution.
It is. It's going to be
really.
a revolution. And so until that happens, I just, you know, it's just sad and it's an awful thing. And I don't know, I just, sometimes it's mind boggling why we as a country have so many issues. Like, again, the abortion issue, Europeans are like, what now? Why?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
then in school shootings, they're like, all my friends yesterday from Belgium, from England, from France, they're all like, what is wrong with your country? They're like, they don't get it. They're like, seriously, what is wrong with you people?
It's environment. You have to think of the mind as another extension of the body. So if you're carrying too much weight, either your arms are going to break or you're just going to have to put it down.
Yes,
the same thing with the mind. The mind is either going to break or it's just going to end up stopping.
So this is a really good segue, actually, and I'm glad you went into it. So today's topic, and I actually got a lot of feedback yesterday when I posted that we have, the topic today is going to be bipolar and cannabis, because I think bipolar is really, one, misunderstood. I think two, labeled incorrectly, perhaps on a lot of levels. And then the treatment for bipolar is probably one of the most harshest things. And I want you to address this, and you're going to be opening up today on a
Sure.
personal level. So tell your story, and it's an amazing one. And so for all those people suffering from bipolar or living with someone who is bipolar, I know I got a lot of questions about this yesterday. So Don, I'm going to give you the floor, because this is really critical to a lot of people that, like I said, I have friends that have it and friends that are living with people that do have it. And so they had a lot of questions for me yesterday. So I hope that you can answer some of them today.
Yeah. Absolutely. I've lived with this my entire life. I wasn't diagnosed until I was 27, but I had always known that something was different. I would just wake up random days. Bipolar is very unpredictable. So you can wake up one day and you can feel like $1 million, and you can go out and spend all of your money and be broke. And then the next day you're depressed. Or
does it just come like in weight? It just out of the blue, or like how does it
there's
work?
some certain triggers, lack of sleep, more stress, obviously. So that's why I spoke of the environment earlier, to kind of lead into that, because you have to treat your mind like an organ. So you're not going to overload it too much. And that's what happens when you do overload it, or you put it in a certain environment. I think it has to take on particular characteristics or adapt to that environment to be able to survive. So I think that some of my own personal musings with mental illness are that it's another extension of the person. You put somebody in a bad place and they're just going to end up having to be a bad person to live there. So the mind ends up figuring that out, but there's also hereditary things too. So I know it extends. Yeah,
Okay,
it definitely extends into my family. My father, I'm pretty sure, has it. My grandmother, I was pretty sure, had it. My brother is a bit ADHD, bipolar. There are some other things that are comorbid together.
Oh, wow.
So that if you have ADHD, you're more likely to get bipolar. Or
so, you said, this is interesting, because you said you kind of really didn't realize that you even had this till you were 27. But growing up, like, did you have like episodes where, like, because I know with bipolar it's manic, so you go up and down, and it's highs and it's lows, like you said. But like growing up, did you feel like you were different as a kid? Like, did you experience like different moments as a child? So like you kind of were like, there's something different with me, like.
Certainly, certainly. So with that, I can say probably the earliest episodes that I can remember are third or fourth grade.
Oh, wow. Really? Wow. Okay,
Anxiety. I remember going in, I had done bad on a test or something. And I didn't want to get in trouble because, my parents weren't super strict, but they wanted the best for me. So it was, I wasn't nervous because of them. I was just nervous because I wanted to do well. So it was like, oh, did I not get the particular grade on the test? So I stressed for a week at least. And then just particular episodes like that continued throughout my life.
Do you find this is interesting, and this is just a personal curiosity question. Do you find like are most bipolar people high performing because they do put so much pressure on themselves, perhaps?
I think you do have to because it's of the unpredictability. So it's, hey, I've got something scheduled on, Thursday morning, but if I wake up and I don't feel well, then I have to either reschedule. So what they're going to end up doing is they're going to overperform to say, all right, this is what I can do. So if I feel bad, then I don't, please kind of just take this as an average versus let me,
Have a high and a low.
Right. Yeah.
So then how did you, okay, so give us your story. So then you were diagnosed with bipolar, you were put on meds, correct?
I was put on over the course of 10 years at the highest, I was on 6 different meds a day.
Oh my God. Wow.
I don't remember a lot of the 10 years. That's the sad thing. So my daughter,
so you last all that time.
Yeah, between 27 and about 36, 37.
So what's the reason behind all the meds? Were they just trial and error that they were trying to figure out what works for you? Or what was it?
Yeah, because certain meds work for certain people, certain chemistries work and other ones don't. So it's like, if I came in with a problem and the doctor said, hey, this particular med's not taking care of that. Let's either add this one or, downgrade this one and then ramp up this one. So at the end, it was 5
So you were like
meds.
a pharmaceutical toxic mix of crap.
Oh yeah.
Literally.
No.
I mean, honestly, that's a lot. Like you have to, it's a lot. So did you have side effects or what happened?
Lots of side effects. So this is my typical weight. I'm about 170, 180. By the heaviest point that I was at in my career of bipolar meds, I was at 260, 265.
I can't even imagine.
My sugar was between 300 and 400 a day. I was pre-diabetic. All that the meds seemed to do for me, and yes, they did help. So I'm not downplaying meds. If you're on meds and they're working for you, that's awesome because you have to find something that allows you to live
and function. No, I agree.
But they just weren't for me. I was at my heaviest. I didn't feel well. I still had panic. I still had anxiety. So I said, why am I taking all this stuff? What is this all for? So I said, there had to be a different way. And that was towards the end of my teaching time that I didn't feel that I was right at the time. So I felt like I had to take some time off of teaching to get myself right. And I ended up landing here at this position as a designer here with Patty Gordon, who such a lovely person. Patty and Dr. Barry, honestly, probably some of the best people I've known. She said, hey, have you ever thought about cannabis? I said, honestly, I didn't. I was not a user when I was younger. I said, I didn't want to get into illegal substances. When I was younger, I just said, I have enough on my plate with my anxiety and my bipolar.
I don't need anything else.
Again, I wasn't diagnosed until I was 27, but between then and birth, I knew that there was something wrong. But within a year, I was off all 6 meds.
It's incredible. That really is an incredible story.
I didn't tell my doctor, and I had started to titrate less and less because I didn't like them anymore. Cannabis was starting to fill that gap, and cannabis is a little bit different than some of the meds. So with the meds, it's let's give it to you, and hopefully you don't feel the way that you do. Mm-hmm. So I would take it, and an hour later, I'd be a drooling mess on the couch.
Oh my God.
With cannabis, it's interesting.
And it's hard because you had a young family.
I did. Yeah. No, at that time I had a 3-year-old or a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old.
And oh my God, like really to have to, like you said, you lost those years, but even for the family, it's
Yeah,
stress. If they
no.
see their dad like that, or,
And it
it's
was,
hard.
they did, they knew, hey, if I was in bed, don't bother me because I don't want to deal with it. And that was all that I could do. Or, if I was just on the couch, just relaxing, I couldn't be my full self and help them. So I knew that I had to make a change for myself and for them, because again, accountability. I don't want my children growing up and living in a world where they put out the hate and the hurt. So it's like, I'm going to do better myself.
And you did. So with the cannabis, tell us, because this is the thing, right before the show today, I actually wanted to do a little research myself, just
Sure.
because I want to see what's out there for studies. And the studies are really interesting with bipolar and cannabis. The psychiatric profession, they're not fans of cannabis. They are not typically. So it seems to be very negative from the psych area, except I looked at a lot of research done in Australia, and the ones in Australia were very positive about cannabis use with bipolar, which was interesting. But the United States is not. And it was, and again, is it big pharma? Hello, like
Yep.
who's playing the role here?
And I can say that, when I was on those 6 meds, every month I saw the psychiatrist. Every month it was, $200, or if my insurance covered it, it was less than that, but it wasn't much less than that. So each one of those meds each also costs, $100 or $1,000, even some of them, if you didn't have insurance, which some of the meds insurance didn't even cover because they were only brand name and you could only get it from there. And it was $1,000 a month. So with cannabis, I also am saving a ton of money and a ton of time, because one, I don't have to go see that psychiatrist because I understand what I'm doing now with Dr. Barry and his excellent instruction. So hey, you got to plug it.
No, it is what it is.
No, so I would say, with cannabis, it's interesting because it allows me, if I'm in a moment of panic, it allows me to, after consuming it, to actually slow down. So before bipolar, I was, and I still am, severely ADHD. So I'll have a moment where it'll be an hour, 2 hours, and then I'll see something out the window, and it's just like in the movie Up with the dog, and it's like squirrel. So absolutely. So then my mind just goes right to something else. So with that anxiety, it's a constant cycle of what can this do, or what can that do, or what's going to be this, or what's going to be that. So as soon as I consume cannabis, everything just slows down. Everything just goes. It's quiet.
So now, just because I am not a cannabis expert at all, so do you, because there's ups and downs, right? So it's either you can go into like a depressive state or a manic state of like, like being happy and euphoria, whatever. So with the cannabis, do you have to take 2 different kinds of cannabis, or have you found, like, what did you find with cannabis? Did you do trial and error to find what worked for you best? Is that what seemed to happen? Because I know a lot of people had asked me, they're like, well, how do you know, what do you take? Like, how do you know what do you take, and how do you take it, and what would work? And I want you to explain the process that you went through. Absolutely. Because that's a process that everyone would go through.
Yeah, no. So when I was starting, it was just vape. It was vape and flower at the time, because it was like, all right, I can take an edible and I can get that, that feeling in 1 to 2 hours, but I needed it immediately for the anxiety. So that's really what I started it with, anytime I had a panic attack, it was like, okay, I excused myself. I went and did something, consumed cannabis, and then I came back and I was able to function. And then,
and how did you find like, okay, the indicas and the sativas, or like, how did you find like what worked?
It was definitely trial and error. To start, you try a little bit of sativa, try a little bit of hybrid, try a little bit of indica, but try a couple different strains and make sure that those strains aren't parents of something else that you've already tried. So if you're getting good effects, keep trying that, and then try ones that are closely related. But I found out early that anytime I had indicas, instead of in the couch, I was up jumping around. So with that, usually people, if they consume sativas, they're creative and high energy. Well, for whatever reason, because because of the ADHD or whatnot, I was opposite. So I stay away from indicas almost entirely. Hybrids and sativas, and the more sativa that they are, or the higher the sativa-ness, or I'm not sure the terpene content. The higher that it is to the sativa mother plant, I get more tired. So,
well, because the other thing that's interesting, because I was reading, and this is more like a Dr. Berry thing, but they were saying, there's 500 cannabinoids. And so like each one, like you said, has a different effect. In the Australian studies that I was reading, they did the same thing. They were trying to see if it's one or a specific one, and it really wasn't, which was also interesting.
Right.
They said every single person reacts differently to cannabis in a different strand. Like you said, every single thing like is different, and it's kind of fascinating. So I know like some people like, I don't, said, how do I get into this? How do I try it? I think like your story of like, go to a medical clinic with a physician and educators who are going to talk to you about all of this. And I think trial and error, I think don't be afraid. I think because some people are afraid, and I get that.
100%, and like I said, I was 36. I had never done any kind of illicit drugs, any kind of illegal drugs. So honestly, you're going to do better than what you are. If you're in a low spot and you want to go somewhere, don't wait, just do it.
Just do it.
Because you're only going to try and get better. As long as you take steps to make sure that you're doing it in the right manner and you're not treating it like a drug, obviously you're going to have some success,
And so how long now have you been on medical cannabis to treat, to sort of help yourself with this bipolar?
4 years now.
4 years now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did you ever go back on a lot of meds or?
Never. And I had some moments where I had said, is this better? Or, is this worse? And I said, in the long run, honestly, I'm better. I'm better now than I was on the 6-7 different meds. Said I can remember my life. I'm definitely a lot happier than I was.
And I'm sure your family sees the effects too. I'm
certainly.
Sure all of them are like, hey, welcome back.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. And it was like waking up from a deep sleep, and it's terrible because that's what we want to put, we want to help people, but it's help them at whatever cost, or help them at whatever it gives me into my pocket, into my wallet.
But it's into your wallet, but it's on so many other levels. Like you said, you're not drooling sitting on a sofa. And I think people don't understand how it affects the family members, because I think it's a stress, like, and if you do have a high or low, because I have some girlfriends who are married to some people who are bipolar, and for the women and the families, it's difficult because you don't know day to day what you're going to wake up with. And it's a stress. It's a stress on those families. So for those families, I'm sure like if there's a chance of something maybe helping them out as a family, give it a shot, worst case, it doesn't work. But it's, you didn't go out thousands of dollars out of pocket to try something that may help.
Exactly.
and it may have you function better. We have a couple minutes left, actually. So I want to actually give Don a plug. He started his own company about a year ago, Synthetic Ghosts. And so if anybody listening is in need of any graphic designer, web designer, anything art-wise, this guy, bar none, is one of the most talented people I have to say I've ever met in my life. And I truly mean that. So plug away your company.
Yes, with that, one of the things that I had thought about doing is since I still deal with some of the bipolar highs and lows, I said, I don't want to put any one employer into that particular position. So I said, I got to do something myself. So I had to start this company, and we focus on 2D, 3D, web, video, and code. and we can produce pretty much anything you want.
No, and it's incredible. Like, honestly, like, and I'm so proud of you. Like, I am so proud of you. I really am truly proud of you. And you did good. You really
Thank
did
you.
good. And he still comes and helps us, and you're a generous spirit. One of the things that I think this group that works at Compassionate Cannabis Clinic, from Dr. Barry to the entire staff, everybody that's worked here, we have a very, very generous staff. They're warm-hearted. We give back to the community. And I know that even you do, like, you do projects, so many times you're like, it's on the house because it's a good cause. And you know, you have to support companies like these because you care about the community. And,
Yeah.
you know, our clinic, Dr. Barry, the staff, all of us, we all care about our communities, and we truly do give back a lot. And so I think for anybody that's looking for somebody that's, you know, decent and does care about the community, support those people. And you know, you're local, you're not a big conglomerate, which
No,
I also like.
just myself.
Just yourself. And I know you're probably overburdened as it is with work, but we'll give you some more.
And actually, I just got a job to do a children's book yesterday.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
Next year, hopefully, no, it's with a childhood friend that runs a theater up in New York. So he's cool. Yeah, no, and he does Christmas Village too. So that's next year, look out for that. It'll be a 32-page children's book.
God, that's awesome.
One of the best things that I can say for Bipolar: accountability and have a really good support system. Yeah. My wife, Christina, I love you, and I would not be able to do this without you. I do the things that I do. Dr. Barry basically saved my life with cannabis. So I want to give back.
Yeah, and you do. And so I thank you for coming on this side and sharing a personal story, because I know it's not always easy to open up on a personal anything, and especially in front of a camera, it's really difficult. So thank you for being brave enough to do that. And I hope for the listeners out there that are listening to this, I hope you take something away from this. And for those that had questions, I hope this helps answer some of them. And reach out to a cannabis provider, reach out to the clinic. Don's awesome. I know you're really passionate about speaking about bipolar issues. So, you know, mental illness is out there. It's affecting more people than you know. And I think all of us know someone who has it or has it. And so please, you know, be upfront and don't be shy, and seek treatment and alternative and holistic alternatives to everything. So next week, we're going to start a couple series of, we're actually going to have, it's political time. We will actually be having some candidates on who are going to be running for county commission and then school board coming over the next couple of weeks, just because we're coming into primary season in August. So we want all the listeners to kind of get an idea of who's running for office, who supports the things. And this is one thing that's really important. Please vote for people who support what you want. If they're not pro cannabis and they're not pro public education and things that you care about, pro women, vote them out.
Don't vote party lines.
And don't vote party lines. Really don't. Vote for who and what you care about is issues. It should be issue based and not party line. So please get out. If you haven't registered to vote, get registered, because the primaries are coming up. For primaries, you do have to be registered either as a Democrat or a Republican in order to vote in a primary. But I know, which is frustrating, should be independent. Everybody should be allowed. I think that's kind of, I don't understand how that is even constitutional, but that's another side note as I digress. And for Ukraine, our thoughts and prayers are with you. So Slava Ukraini. And for Texas, just no words. You can't be in the shoes of any parent that lost a child. So I'm sorry. There's just nothing to say. There is nothing. Just accept, it's unacceptable, and we need to make a change. And I hope
we need to do better.
And we need to do better for our children's sake and for everyone's sake. So hopefully change policy, change who's in office, change the rules, make it harder for people to get access to guns that they really do not need, especially an 18-year-old. So anyways, tune in next week. Thank you, Don, for being with us. And see you guys all in the green room next week. Take care. Thank you, Don. You did great. Yay.